The SUV was upside down, smoke rising from its crumpled hood like a distress signal against the Montana twilight. Jack Morrison's headlights caught the glint of blood on shattered glass, and then he saw her. Emma Sterling, the billionaire heiress whose face graced magazine covers, now trapped and terrified, whispering desperately, "Please, no hospitals, no police, they'll find me." In that moment, with his twin daughters waiting at home, Jack had to decide walk away from trouble or save a woman whose enemies would soon become his own. Welcome to a story of courage, conspiracy, and unexpected love. I'm sharing this tale from the heartland of America. Comment below where you're watching from. I'd love to know how far this story travels. Now let's begin. The October wind cut through Jack Morrison's worn flannel jacket as he drove his aging pickup truck along Highway 287, 30 miles outside of Whitefish, Montana. The dashboard clock read 7:43 p.m., and he was already running late. Mrs. Henderson, the elderly neighbor who watched his girls, would be checking her watch about now, probably tisking about young folks these days, even though Jack was 34 and hadn't felt young since Sarah died 3 years ago. The truck's headlights swept across the empty road, illuminating patches of early frost that made the asphalt glitter like broken glass. Jack rubbed his eyes with one calloused hand, the other steady on the wheel. The feed store in town had been out of the specific grain mixture his horses needed, forcing him to drive an extra hour to the next town over. Now darkness was falling fast, and Lily and Rose would be wondering where Daddy was. Then he saw it. At first it looked like a shadow had fallen wrong across the road, something that didn't belong in the geometric precision of yellow lines and gray pavement. Jack's foot eased off the accelerator, instinctively, years of driving these roads having taught him that shadows out of place usually meant wildlife. But as he drew closer, his chest tightened. This was no deer. A luxury SUV, one of those German things that cost more than his ranch made in 2 years, lay on its roof in the drainage ditch beside the road. The front end was crumpled like aluminum foil steam or smoke rising from the exposed undercarriage. Fresh skid marks traced a violent path from the road to the wreck, the rubber burns still glistening in his headlights. "Jesus Christ," Jack muttered, already pulling over. His hands moved automatically hazard lights on truck in park, grabbing the flashlight from under his seat and his phone from the cup holder. No signal. Of course not. They were in the dead zone that stretched for miles along this part of the highway. He jogged toward the wreck boots crunching on gravel. The silence was wrong. No music from a radio, no engine noise, nothing but the tick-tick-tick of cooling metal and the whisper of escaping fluids. The driver's side was facing up toward the road, and Jack had to slide down the embankment to reach it. "Hello," he called out, his voice carrying strange in the night air. "Anyone in there? I'm here to help." A soft moan answered him. Jack dropped to his knees beside the overturned vehicle, angling his flashlight through the spider-webbed windshield. What he saw made him suck in a sharp breath. A woman hung upside down, held in place by her seatbelt, her dark hair hanging like a curtain. Blood ran from a gash on her forehead, following the strange gravity to drip onto the crushed roof below her. Her designer dress, something silvery and expensive-looking, was torn and stained. But it was her face that made Jack's flashlight waver. Even bloodied and unconscious, he recognized her. Emma Sterling. Everyone in Montana knew Emma Sterling. Hell, everyone in America knew her. The Sterling family owned half the state's commercial real estate, their name on everything from shopping centers to the hospital wing where Sarah had spent her last days. "Miss Sterling." Jack tried the door handle, locked or jammed. "Emma, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open, and Jack found himself looking into irises the color of mountain lakes, clouded with pain and confusion. For a moment she stared at him without recognition, then her mouth opened in a soundless gasp. "Help," she whispered the word, barely more than an exhale. "I'm going to get you out," Jack said, trying to project calm he didn't feel. "Are you hurt anywhere besides your head? Can you move your arms and legs?" She blinked slowly, seeming to take inventory. I think so. My shoulder." She tried to move and cried out a sharp sound that made Jack wince in sympathy. Okay, don't move yet." Jack studied the situation. The door was definitely jammed, the frame bent from the roll. The windshield was already compromised, but kicking it in would shower her with glass. The back window, though. I'm going to break the rear window and come in through the back, he explained, already moving. Then I'll cut your seatbelt and ease you down. Try to stay still. No, she said suddenly, her voice stronger. No, please. No hospitals. No police. Jack paused, his elbow raised to strike the rear window. Ma'am, you're hurt. You need medical attention. No! The word came out as almost a shout, and the effort seemed to drain her. Her eyes, when they found his again, were desperate. Please, they'll find me. No hospitals. No police. Promise me. Every instinct Jack had developed in 34 years of life, 3 years of single parenthood, and a lifetime of Montana common sense screamed at him to ignore her. She was clearly concussed, not thinking straight. She needed an ambulance, EMTs, a hospital. But something in her eyes, a terror that went deeper than pain or confusion, made him hesitate. Who'll find you? He asked. She shook her head slightly, wincing at the movement. Please, I'll explain. Just somewhere safe, not public. Please. Jack stood there for a long moment, flashlight beam wavering between her face and the darkness beyond. This was insane. He should call 911 the moment he got signal. He should, please, she whispered again, and a tear rolled up her forehead, mixing with the blood. Damn it, Jack muttered. He brought his elbow down hard on the rear window. It took 3 tries before the safety glass finally gave way, crackling into 1,000 tiny pieces that clung together like a deadly blanket. He cleared enough to climb through glass crunching under his body as he worked his way into the overturned vehicle. The interior smelled of deployed airbags, spilled coffee, and blood. Emma hung above him like some inverted angel, her breath coming in short gasps. Jack pulled out his pocket knife, reaching up to saw at the seatbelt. When I cut this, you're going to fall, he warned. I'm going to catch you, but it might hurt. She nodded minutely. I trust you. The words hit him unexpectedly. This woman didn't even know his name, but she trusted him. Jack positioned himself carefully, one arm ready to catch her shoulders, the other her hips. On 3, he said. 1, 2. The belt gave way and Emma fell into his arms with a cry of pain. Jack absorbed her weight, his back protesting as he held her in the cramped space. She was lighter than he expected, her body trembling against his chest. I've got you. He murmured the words, coming automatically, the same tone he used when Lily had nightmares or Rose skinned her knee. You're okay. I've got you. Carefully, painfully, he maneuvered them both through the broken rear window. Emma bit her lip hard enough to draw fresh blood, but she didn't scream. Once they were clear of the vehicle, Jack lifted her properly, one arm under her knees, the other supporting her back. She curled into him instinctively, her face pressed against his shoulder. The climb up the embankment was treacherous. Jack's boots slipped on loose gravel, and twice he had to pause to regain his balance. Emma's breathing was shallow and rapid against his neck. Her fingers clutched in his jacket like she was afraid he might disappear. He got her to his truck, setting her gently in the passenger seat. In the dome light, he could see her injuries more clearly. The head wound was still bleeding, but not as bad as he'd feared. Her left shoulder sat at an odd angle, dislocated probably. Various cuts and bruises were already beginning to color her pale skin. There's a hospital in Kalispell, so, he said, even though he knew what her answer would be. 20 minutes if I push it. No. She caught his wrist as he reached for his phone. Her grip was surprisingly strong. No hospitals, please. Do you have somewhere private? Jack thought of his ranch 15 miles up into the hills. His daughters waiting at home. Mrs. Henderson, who'd be worried sick by now. This was a catastrophically bad idea. I have a place, he heard himself say. But you need medical attention. I'm not a doctor. I just need somewhere safe. To think. To figure out what to do. She was crying now, silent tears cutting tracks through the blood and dirt on her face. They tried to kill me. The brakes. Someone cut my brakes. Jack went very still. He looked back at the wreck, at the skid marks that showed she'd tried to stop it the way the vehicle had gone off the road at just the spot where there was no guardrail. Who? He asked quietly. I don't know. I mean, I know, but I don't know which one, or how many. She was rambling now, shock setting in. After what I found out, what I did, God, I was so stupid. I thought the law would protect me. I thought doing the right thing meant something. Jack made a decision that would change everything, though he didn't know it at the time. He closed the passenger door gently, walked around to the driver's side, and started the engine. "My name's Jack Morrison," he said, pulling back onto the highway. "I've got a ranch about 15 miles from here. It's remote private. No one will find you there." "Emma," she said automatically, then laughed bitterly. "But you know that. Everyone knows that." "I know your face from the newspapers," Jack admitted, glancing at her. "But I don't know you. And right now you're just someone who needs help." She studied him in the dim light from the dashboard. "Why are you doing this?" Jack thought of Sarah dying in a hospital bed, machines beeping around her. He thought of how the Sterling name was on the wing, where she'd spent her last days, how their money had built the equipment that couldn't save her. He thought of his daughters who'd grown up without their mother, who still sometimes cried for her at night. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said simply. The drive to the ranch was silent, except for Emma's occasional gasps of pain when they hit bumps. Jack kept glancing at her, worried she might pass out. But she stayed conscious, her gaze fixed on the darkness beyond the windshield, one hand pressed to her injured shoulder. "I need to tell you," Jack said, as they turned onto the private road that led to his property. "I've got kids, 2 daughters, 6 years old." Emma's head turned toward him sharply. Then she winced at the movement. I don't want to put children in danger." "Neither do I," Jack said firmly. "So if you're bringing that kind of trouble, you need to tell me now." She was quiet for a long moment. "I don't think they know where I am. The car, I bought it with cash, fake name. I was trying to disappear, but these people have resources, connections. If they really want to find me." She trailed off. Jack pulled up to his house, a modest 2-story farmhouse that had been in his family for 3 generations. Warm light spilled from the windows, and he could see Mrs. Henderson's silhouette in the kitchen. "Wait here," he said. He jogged to the front door, mind racing for an explanation that wouldn't be a complete lie. Mrs. Henderson met him at the door, her weathered face creased with concern. "Jack Morrison, where on God's green earth have you been? The girls have been asking for you every 5 minutes, and I—" She stopped peering past him at the truck. "Who's that?" "A friend," Jack said, which wasn't exactly a lie. "She had car trouble, bad accident. She's hurt, but she doesn't want to go to the hospital." Mrs. Henderson's eyes narrowed. She'd helped raise Jack after his own mother died, and she could read him like a large print book. "Jack, I know how it looks," he said quietly. "But she needs help, Mrs. H., real help, the kind that doesn't ask questions." The older woman studied him for a long moment, then sighed. "The girls are in bed, though. I doubt they're asleep. You want me to stay?" "No, I've got it from here. Thank you for watching them." She gathered her things, but paused at the door. "That woman in your truck, she's in some kind of trouble, isn't she?" "Yes," Jack admitted. "The kind that might follow her here." "I hope not." "Mrs." Henderson touched his cheek, a gesture she'd been making since he was 7 years old. "You're just like your father, always bringing home strays." She glanced at the truck again. "Though this one looks more expensive than usual. You be careful, Jack. Those girls need their daddy." After she left, Jack returned to the truck. Emma had her eyes closed but opened them when he touched her uninjured shoulder, gently. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you inside." She leaned on him heavily as they made their way to the house. Jack guided her to the kitchen, settling her in a chair at the worn wooden table. In the bright light, she looked even worse, pale blood-stained, her expensive dress torn and dirty. "I'm going to check on my daughters," he said. "Then I'll get the first aid kit. Don't go anywhere." She managed a weak smile. "I don't think I could if I tried." Jack climbed the stairs, his boots heavy on the old wood. The girls' room was at the end of the hall. Door cracked open with a nightlight casting soft shadows on the walls. He pushed it open carefully. 2 pairs of bright eyes looked up at him from matching twin beds. "Daddy." Lily, always the louder one, sat up immediately. "Where were you? Mrs. Henderson made mac and cheese. But it wasn't the way you make it. And we heard a car, Rose interrupted, quieter but more observant. Is someone here? Jack sat on the edge of Lily's bed, reaching out to smooth Rose's hair. Yes, someone's here. A lady who had car trouble. She's hurt, so she's going to stay with us tonight. Maybe for a few days. Is she nice? Lily asked. I think so, Jack said honestly. But she's very tired and hurt, so we need to be quiet and gentle, okay? Like when the barn cat had kittens and we had to be careful. We can help, Rose said earnestly. I can get her a teddy bear. Mr. Buttons always makes me feel better when I'm hurt. Jack's heart squeezed. That's very sweet, Rosie. Maybe tomorrow? Okay. Right now you both need to sleep. He tucked them in, kissing each forehead, and was almost to the door when Lily's voice stopped him. Daddy, is the hurt lady pretty? Go to sleep, Lily. But is she... Jack thought of Emma's face bloodied but striking those lake blue eyes full of fear and pain. Yes, he admitted. She's pretty, Lily giggled. Maybe she can be our new mommy. Lily and Marie Morrison go to sleep right now. Both girls giggled at his use of Lily's full name, but they settled into their beds. Jack waited until their breathing evened out before heading back downstairs. Emma was where he'd left her, but she'd laid her head on her arms on the table. For a moment he thought she'd passed out, but she raised her head when she heard him. Sorry, she murmured. Dizzy. Possible concussion, Jack said, setting the first aid kit on the table. You really should see a doctor. I can't, she said firmly. Please, can you help me? Jack pulled a chair close to hers. I'll do what I can. This is going to hurt. He started with her head wound, cleaning it carefully with antiseptic. Emma hissed through her teeth, but didn't pull away. The cut wasn't as deep as he'd feared, and he was able to close it with butterfly bandages. The shoulder's dislocated, he said gently, probing the joint. I can reset it, but you know how long ranch life, he said simply. You learn to handle injuries when the nearest hospital is an hour away, but it's going to hurt like hell. It already does, Emma said, attempting a smile that turned into a grimace. Jack positioned himself carefully. I'm going to do it on 3. Try to relax. Okay? 1. He pulled and rotated in one swift motion. The joint slipped back into place with an audible pop. Emma's scream was muffled by her good hand pressed to her mouth, her whole body going rigid, then limp. Son of a... She caught herself glancing toward the stairs. Are your daughters? They sleep like rocks once they're out, Jack assured her, fashioning a sling from a dish towel. There, how's that? Better, she admitted, though tears were streaming down her face. Thank you. Jack cleaned and bandaged her other cuts in silence, hyper-aware of her proximity, the expensive perfume barely masking the scent of blood and fear. When he was done, he sat back. You need to tell me what's going on, he said. Who did this to you? Emma was quiet for so long he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, staring at her hands, she began to speak. 3 months ago, I discovered my fiancé was embezzling from my company, not just skimming massive fraud, millions of dollars funneled through shell companies to fund, God, I don't even know what. Marcus, that's my head of security, helped me gather evidence. We took it to the FBI. And Richard was arrested. It was all over the news. You probably saw it. Jack vaguely remembered something about a Sterling scandal, but he didn't pay much attention to celebrity news. So he's in jail. He was supposed to be, but he has connections. People who stood to lose a lot if he talked. 2 weeks ago, my lawyer came to me with a deal. Drop the charges, let Richard out, and everything goes back to normal. You refused. Of course I refused, Emma said, anger flashing in her eyes. He stole from me, from my family's company, from the charitable foundation, Children's Hospitals, Jack. He stole from Children's Hospitals. So they tried to kill you. I've been getting threats. Anonymous calls, emails. Marcus wanted me to go into protective custody, but I thought I could handle it. I've been staying in different hotels, keeping a low profile. But today when the brakes failed, she shuddered. You can't stay here, Jack said, even as something in him protested. I have children. I can't put them at risk. I know, Emma said quickly. I know. I need tonight to rest, to think. Tomorrow I'll figure something out. I have money hidden accounts they don't know about. I can disappear. To where? I don't know. Somewhere. Anywhere. She looked around the kitchen, taking in the crayon drawings on the refrigerator, the mismatched chairs, the ceramic handprint plaques on the wall. This is nice. Normal. I haven't had normal in so long. It's not much, Jack said, suddenly self-conscious about his humble home. It's everything, Emma said softly. It's real. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Before Jack could respond, small footsteps padded down the stairs. Rose appeared in the doorway, clutching a well-loved teddy bear. I couldn't sleep, she said, though Jack suspected she hadn't tried very hard. Her eyes went wide when she saw Emma. You're the hurt lady. Rose, go back to bed, Jack started, but Emma held up her good hand. It's okay, she said, smiling at the little girl. I am the hurt lady. You must be Rose. Rose nodded solemnly, stepping closer. You're bleeding, she observed, pointing at a spot of blood on Emma's dress. I had an accident, Emma explained, but your daddy is helping me feel better. Rose studied her for a moment, then held out the teddy bear. This is Mr. Buttons. He helps when you're scared or hurt. Emma's eyes filled with tears as she accepted the bear. Thank you, Rose. That's very kind. Daddy says you're staying with us. Rose continued, climbing onto Jack's lap. Are you going to sleep in the guest room? It has flowers on the walls. Grandma painted them before she went to heaven. Yes, I suppose I am, Emma said, glancing at Jack. Can I show her the room, Daddy? Rose asked. Jack sighed. Once Rose was awake, there was no point fighting it. Okay, but then straight back to bed. Rose took Emma's good hand, leading her toward the stairs with the seriousness of a tiny tour guide. Jack followed, carrying the first aid kit and trying not to think about how surreal this all was. The guest room hadn't been used since Sarah's sister visited last Christmas. Rose turned on the lamp, revealing faded wallpaper with hand-painted roses along the border. Grandma loved roses, Rose explained to Emma. That's why I'm named Rose, and Lily is named after Grandma's favorite flowers, too. It's beautiful, Emma said, and she seemed to mean it. There's extra blankets in the closet, Jack said, setting down clean towels he'd grabbed from the hall closet. Bathroom's across the hall. I'll find something for you to wear. He returned with one of Sarah's old nightgowns, something he hadn't been able to donate with the rest of her clothes. Emma accepted it gratefully. Rose, say good night, Jack instructed. Rose hugged Emma carefully, mindful of her injuries. Good night, hurt lady. I hope you feel better tomorrow. Please, Emma said. Call me Emma. Good night, Emma, Rose said, then whispered loudly. You're very pretty. Daddy thinks so too. Rose. Jack scooped her up, face burning. Bedtime. Now. Emma's soft laugh followed them down the hall. After getting Rose back to bed with stern instructions to stay there, Jack returned to find Emma struggling with her dress, unable to manage the zipper with her injured shoulder. Could you help? She asked, clearly embarrassed. Jack's hands were steady as he helped her, though his mind was anything but. He kept his touch clinical and personal, but he couldn't help noticing the bruises already forming along her ribs the way she trembled from shock and exhaustion. Thank you, she said once she was in the nightgown, for everything. You don't even know me. I know enough, Jack said. I know you're in trouble. I know you need help. That's enough for now. Most people would have called the police. You asked me not to. And you just listened. Just like that. Jack thought about how to answer. My wife died 3 years ago. Cancer. Toward the end, she was in a lot of pain. The doctors wanted to keep trying treatments, keep fighting, but Sarah, she just wanted peace. Wanted to come home. Everyone said I was crazy, that I should listen to the doctors, but I listened to her instead. He paused. Sometimes what people need isn't what everyone else thinks they need. Emma sat on the edge of the bed, looking small and lost in Sarah's nightgown. Your wife was lucky to have you. I was lucky to have her, Jack corrected. Get some rest. We'll figure out what to do in the morning. He was almost to the door when Emma spoke again. Jack? Why don't you recognize me? I mean, really recognize me. Everyone always does. Jack turned back. I know who you are. Emma Sterling, heir to Sterling Industries. Your family owns half of Montana. But you don't care. Should I? Jack asked honestly. You're hurt and scared and need help. Would it matter if you were a waitress or a teacher or a billionaire? To most people, yes. Well, Jack said, I'm not most people, and neither are my girls. Though fair warning, Lily's probably going to try to marry you off to me by breakfast. Emma laughed, then winced as it jarred her shoulder. She sounds delightful. She's 6 going on 30. They both are. Had to grow up fast after. He trailed off. I'm sorry, Emma said softly. About your wife. Me too, Jack said. Lock the door behind me, just in case. He left her there in his dead wife's nightgown in his mother's room and wondered what the hell he'd gotten himself into. Downstairs, Jack checked all the locks, looked out at the dark road leading to his property. No headlights, no sign of anyone following. Yet. He made a pot of coffee even though it was past 11 and sat at the kitchen table with his phone. He had a signal now, weak but present. He could call the police, the FBI, someone. But Emma's terrified eyes haunted him. Someone had tried to kill her. Someone with connections resources. Who could she trust? Who could he trust? His phone buzzed. Mrs. Henderson. Everything okay? That woman looked familiar. Jack typed back, Everything's fine. Talk tomorrow. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, be careful, Jack. He set the phone aside and rubbed his face. In the morning, he'd have to explain to his daughters why a strange woman was in their house. He'd have to figure out how to help Emma without endangering his family. He'd have to... A sound from upstairs made him freeze. Footsteps, but too heavy to be the girls. Jack grabbed the baseball bat from beside the back door and crept up the stairs. The guest room door was open, soft crying coming from within. He found Emma sitting on the floor beside the bed, knees drawn to her chest, sobbing quietly. She looked up when he entered, face streaked with tears. I'm sorry, she gasped. I'm sorry, it hit me. What almost happened? What could still happen? I almost died tonight. Jack set the bat aside and sat beside her on the floor. But you didn't. I've never been so scared, she admitted. Even when my parents died, even when I had to take over the company at 22, nothing like this. I don't know who to trust, where to go. Marcus, my security chief, I can't even reach him. What if they got to him too? Hey, Jack said gently. One step at a time. You're safe tonight. That's what matters. Am I really, or did I just bring danger to your door? Jack didn't have an answer for that. Instead, he did what he'd done 1,000 times with his daughters. He put his arm around her shoulders, careful of her injuries, and let her cry. I'm not a good person, Emma said against his shoulder. I've done terrible things in business, ruthless things. Maybe this is karma. Nobody deserves to be murdered, Jack said firmly. Whatever you've done, it doesn't justify this. You don't know. I don't need to know. You're a human being in trouble. That's all that matters. They sat there on the floor of his mother's room, stranger comforting stranger, while the wind howled outside and the old house creaked around them. Finally, Emma's tears subsided. I should let you sleep, Jack said, helping her to her feet. I don't think I can, she admitted. Every time I close my eyes, I see the road coming at me, the brakes not working. Do you want me to stay? The words were out before Jack could stop them. I mean, I can sit in the chair just until you fall asleep. Emma looked at him for a long moment. You do that? My girls have nightmares sometimes, Jack said, suddenly awkward. I'm used to it. She nodded, settling into the bed, while Jack took the old rocking chair in the corner. He'd rocked both girls in this chair when they were babies in this very room when they'd stayed with his mother while Sarah was in the hospital. Talk to me, Emma said softly. About something normal. Something good. So Jack talked. He told her about the ranch, about his horses, and the barn cat who'd had kittens last month. He told her about Lily's determination to learn to ride and Rose's gift with animals. He talked about the rhythm of ranch life, the peace of early mornings, the satisfaction of hard work. Emma's breathing gradually deepened, evened out, but Jack kept talking, his voice low and steady, until he was sure she was asleep. Even then, he stayed watching her face relax in sleep, the worry lines smoothing out. She looked younger, asleep, vulnerable in a way that had nothing to do with her injuries. Jack found himself wondering who she really was beneath the sterling name and the money and the scandal. He thought about what she'd said, that she wasn't a good person. He wondered what had made her think that, what weights she carried besides the obvious ones. A soft knock at the door made him turn. Lily stood there in her dinosaur pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy, is the pretty lady okay?" "She's sleeping," Jack whispered. "What are you doing up?" "Rose said the lady was sad. Is that why you're sitting with her, like when we have bad dreams?" "Yes, sweetheart, exactly like that." Lily patted over and climbed into his lap, something she hadn't done in months. "She must be very sad if she needs Daddy sitting." "She is," Jack agreed, stroking Lily's hair. "Maybe tomorrow we can make her happy," Lily said with the simple confidence of a 6-year-old. "We could show her the kittens. Everyone loves kittens." "That's a good idea. And I could draw her a picture, and Rose could sing for her. Rose has the prettiest voice." "All good ideas," Jack said, his heart full of love for his generous daughters. "Daddy," Lily's voice was getting sleepy. "Is she going to stay?" "I don't know, baby." "I hope she does," Lily mumbled against his chest. "She looks nice, and she needs us." Jack carried Lily back to bed, tucking her in beside Rose, who'd migrated to her sister's bed at some point. The twins curled together like puppies, and Jack watched them for a moment, struck, as always, by how much they looked like Sarah when they slept. He returned to the guest room one more time to check on Emma. She was still sleeping, Mr. Buttons the bear tucked against her good shoulder. Jack pulled the blanket up over her, then quietly left, this time closing the door behind him. In his own room, Jack lay awake thinking. Tomorrow would bring decisions, complications, possibly danger. But tonight, he'd done what felt right. He'd helped someone who needed it. Sarah would have done the same thing. She'd always been the one bringing home strays, both animal and human. "I hope you'd approve," he whispered to the darkness, to the memory of his wife. "I hope I'm doing the right thing." The wind answered with a howl that rattled the windows, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote called to its pack. Jack closed his eyes, but sleep was a long time coming. Every sound made him tense, wondering if it was trouble arriving at his door. But the night passed without incident, and when the first pale light of dawn crept through his window, Jack realized he'd made it through. They'd all made it through. Whatever came next, they'd face it in the daylight. He didn't know that Emma was awake in the next room, staring at the ceiling, planning her escape. He didn't know that she'd already decided to leave before his daughters woke up, to protect this kind family from the storm that followed her. He didn't know that in Denver, Marcus Chen was fighting for his life in an ICU, or that Richard's associates were already tracking the abandoned SUV, already asking questions in the towns along Highway 287. All Jack knew was that an injured woman had needed help, and he'd given it. The rest, the danger, the drama, the unexpected love that would grow from this strange night, all of that was still to come. But it had begun here on a cold October night in Montana, with a single choice to help a stranger in need. And that choice would change everything. The morning sun hadn't yet crested the mountains when Jack heard movement in the guest room. He'd been awake for an hour, already standing at his bedroom window, watching the road coffee growing cold in his hand. The soft creak of floorboards told him Emma was trying to leave quietly, and he moved just as silently to intercept her. She was at the top of the stairs, still in Sarah's nightgown, her shoes in her good hand when she saw him. Her face crumpled with something between relief and disappointment. "I have to go," she whispered, glancing toward the girls' room. "Before they wake up, before anyone finds me here." "Where?" Jack asked simply. "Where will you go with a dislocated shoulder, possible concussion, and no car?" "I'll figure it out. I always do." But her voice shook, betraying the confidence she was trying to project. "The hell you will." Jack kept his voice low but firm. "You're going to get yourself killed, and for what? Pride?" "For your daughters." Emma shot back, tears threatening. "Do you think I could live with myself if something happened to them because of me? They're innocents in this, Jack. Beautiful, pure innocents who don't deserve—" "Daddy!" Rose's sleepy voice interrupted them. She stood in her doorway, hair mussed, Mr. Button's twin sister clutched in her arms. Is Emma leaving? The heartbreak on the child's face was enough to crack Emma's composure. She sank onto the top step shoes, falling from her hand. I thought you were staying, Rose said, padding over to them. You still have Mr. Buttons. You can't leave with him. He'll miss his sister. Lily appeared beside her twin, more awake, more aware. She looked between the adults with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. She's scared, she announced. Like when the Hendersons' dog got loose and hid under our porch. She wanted to run, but she was too hurt, so she just shook and shook. Lily, Jack warned, but his daughter continued. We helped that dog remember Daddy. We were real quiet and patient and gave her food and showed her it was safe, and now Molly's the best dog ever. She turned to Emma. Are you hurt like Molly was? Emma's tears came then silent streams down her pale cheeks. Yes, she admitted. I'm hurt and scared. Then you have to stay, Rose said with 6-year-old logic. Hurt things need to rest. Daddy says so. Jack watched Emma struggle, saw the moment she gave in to the simple wisdom of children. He reached down to help her stand. Breakfast, he said. We'll figure out the rest after breakfast. The kitchen soon filled with the chaos of a normal morning, except nothing about it was normal. Emma sat at the table wearing one of Jack's flannel shirts over the nightgown, watching with wonder as the girls bustled around getting bowls and spoons, arguing about cereal choices, their movements a choreographed dance of familiarity. Emma likes Cheerios, Lily announced, though she had no way of knowing this. Everyone likes Cheerios, Rose countered, but Lucky Charms are better. Those are basically candy, Jack said, scrambling eggs at the stove. And how do you even know about Lucky Charms? We don't have those. Tommy Parker brings them to school for snacks, Lily explained. He trades them for pudding cups. The black market economy of first grade, Emma murmured, and Jack caught her small smile. As they ate, the girls peppered Emma with questions that Jack tried to deflect, but Emma seemed to welcome the distraction. Do you have horses? Rose asked. No, but I used to ride when I was young. My mother loved horses. What happened to her? Lily's directness made Jack wince, but Emma took it in stride. She died when I was 15. My father, too. Car accident. Both girls went quiet that particular solemnity, children reserved for talk of dead parents. Our mommy died too, Rose offered. But we were little. 3. I'm sorry, Emma said softly. It's okay, Lily said, though Jack knew it wasn't, not really. We have Daddy and Mrs. Henderson, and now you. Before Emma could respond to that presumption, Jack's phone rang. The number was local but unfamiliar. He answered warily. Mr. Morrison. This is Deputy Carter with the Sheriff's Office. We found an abandoned vehicle off Highway 287 not far from your property. Black SUV, pretty banged up. You didn't happen to see or hear anything last night. Jack's eyes met Emma's across the table. She'd gone rigid, barely breathing. No, nothing, Jack said carefully. What happened? Looks like a single vehicle accident. Driver must have walked away, though. With the amount of blood in the car, they couldn't have gone far. We're checking hospitals, but thought we'd canvass the area. Mind if we stop by? Of course not, Jack said, though his mind raced. When maybe an hour, just routine questions. We'll be here. He hung up to find Emma already standing, panic clear on her face. I have to go, now. And go where? Jack demanded. You heard him, they're checking everywhere. Running now will only make you look guilty. I am guilty of being stupid enough to trust the system of thinking law enforcement would protect me. Some will say, Jack said firmly. Deputy Carter's a good man. I've known him since high school. That's what I thought about my lawyer, Emma said bitterly. Right up until he tried to convince me to drop the charges. The girls were watching this exchange with wide eyes. Jack forced himself to calm down. Girls, why don't you go get dressed, and then you can show Emma the kittens before the deputy comes. They scampered off, but not before Lily turned back. Emma, you should borrow some of Mommy's clothes. They're in the boxes in Daddy's closet. He keeps them even though he pretends he doesn't. Jack's face burned, but Emma just nodded. Thank you, Lily. Once they were alone, Emma sank back into her chair. I'm putting you in an impossible position. You're not putting me anywhere. I'm choosing to help. Jack pulled out his phone. But we need to get your story straight. You can't hide here forever, but maybe we can buy some time. What are you thinking? The truth mostly. You had an accident. You were disoriented, walked to the nearest house. You didn't want to involve police because... He paused, thinking. Because you're Emma Sterling and you didn't want the media circus. It's believable enough. And when they match the blood in the car to me, by then, hopefully, we'll have figured out who's trying to kill you and how to stop them. Emma laughed bitterly. Jack, you don't even know me. Why are you risking so much? Jack considered his answer carefully. My wife used to say that character isn't about the big moments. It's about what you do when someone needs help and no one's watching. Well, someone needs help. My girls are watching. What kind of father would I be if I turned you away? Before Emma could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The message was just a photo of Emma's wrecked SUV surrounded by police tape. The following text made Jack's blood run cold. She's not safe anywhere. Neither are those who help her. Emma saw his face change. What is it? He showed her the phone. She went pale, but her jaw set with determination. That's it. I'm leaving. I won't have your children threatened. The hell you are. Jack's voice was harder than his daughters had ever heard it. Someone just threatened my family. You think I'm going to let them win? You don't know much about Montana ranchers, do you? Jack? No, listen to me. My grandfather fought in World War II. My father stood up to the mining companies when they tried to poison our water. My wife fought cancer for 3 years without complaining once. We don't run from bullies in this family. We don't abandon people who need help. This is different. These people have resources connections. And I have something they don't expect, Jack said firmly. A community. People who've known me my whole life. Deputy Carter, Mrs. Henderson, the Parkers down the road. You think you're alone in this? You're not. Not anymore. Emma stared at him, something shifting in her expression. You really mean that? I don't say things I don't mean. He stood pocketing his phone. Come on. Let's find you something to wear that doesn't scream billionaire on the run. In his bedroom, Jack pulled out the boxes he'd never been able to donate Sarah's clothes, still faintly carrying her scent. Emma touched them gently, reverently. She had good taste, she said softly, pulling out jeans and a simple blue sweater. She was simple, Jack said. Uncomplicated. Everything I'm not. You seem pretty straightforward to me, Emma observed, then winced as she tried to change. I hate being helpless. You're not helpless. You're injured. There's a difference. Jack helped her with the sweater, trying to ignore the intimacy of the moment. These people who are after you, do you know who specifically? Richard had partners, silent investors who used my company to launder money. When I exposed him, I exposed them too. Could be any of them. Could be all of them. We need help, Jack said. Real help. You mentioned someone, Marcus... Emma's face lit up slightly. Marcus Chen. He's been my head of security for 5 years. More than that, he's a friend. Maybe the only real one I have. Can you reach him? Not through normal channels. They'll be monitoring everything, but... She paused, thinking. There's a way. A system we set up in case something like this happened. I need a computer. Daddy? Lily's voice called from downstairs. There's a police car. Jack and Emma locked eyes. Remember, he said, you're just someone who had an accident, nothing more. They descended the stairs to find Deputy Carter already in the kitchen, the girls showing him their drawings on the refrigerator. He was a tall man weathered by sun and wind with kind eyes that missed nothing. Jack, he greeted. Then his eyes widened slightly as he recognized Emma. Miss Sterling. Emma stepped forward, managing to look both embarrassed and composed. Deputy, I'm afraid I'm the owner of that SUV you found. Carter's expression shifted through several emotions: surprise, concern, professional interest. Ma'am, are you all right? That looked like a serious accident. I'm fine, Emma said, indicating her sling. Bruised, shaken up. Mr. Morrison was kind enough to help me. Why didn't you call for help? Carter asked, pulling out his notebook. Emma glanced at Jack, then back to Carter. Honestly, I panicked. The accident, it wasn't an accident. Someone tampered with my brakes. Carter's pen stopped moving. That's a serious accusation, ma'am. I know, but with everything that's been in the news about my ex-fiancé, the trial, I have enemies, Deputy, powerful ones. All the more reason to call the police, Carter pointed out. With respect, Deputy, the last time I trusted law enforcement with this, the information was leaked within hours. I can't risk it. Not again. Carter studied her for a long moment, then looked at Jack. And you just happened to be driving by. I found her walking along the road, Jack said truthfully. Injured, disoriented. I brought her here. Daddy's a hero, Rose piped up. He saves things. Horses, cats, people. Carter's mouth twitched in what might have been a smile. That sounds like Jack. He turned back to Emma. Ms. Sterling, I need to report this. You understand that? I do, Emma said carefully. But perhaps, could you delay it just for a day or two until I can make arrangements? What kind of arrangements? The kind that will keep me and anyone around me safe, Emma said meaningfully, glancing at the girls. Carter followed her gaze, his expression softening. He'd known Sarah had attended her funeral, had brought casseroles in those dark days after. I can maybe lose the paperwork for 24 hours, he said finally. But that's all, and if anyone asks me directly, I won't lie. That's all I need, Emma said gratefully. Carter closed his notebook. Jack a word. They stepped onto the porch, leaving Emma with the girls. Carter's friendly demeanor dropped away. What have you gotten yourself into? He asked bluntly. I'm helping someone who needs it, Jack replied. Someone whose ex-fiancé has connections to organized crime from what I hear. Someone whose presence here could bring a world of trouble to your door. Since when do we turn away people in trouble in Montana? Jack asked. Carter sighed. Since those people might bring killers to a house with 2 little girls in it. You think I haven't thought about that? You think I'm not scared? Jack's voice was low and tense. But what's the alternative? Send her out there alone to die. There are programs, safe houses, run by the same system that's already betrayed her once. Carter was quiet for a moment. You like her? I just met her. That's not a denial. Jack ran a hand through his hair. Tom, what would you do, honestly? Carter looked through the window at Emma, who was now sitting on the floor with the girls, apparently engaged in a serious discussion about crayon colors. Sarah would have done exactly what you're doing, he said finally, and she would have been right to do it. So I'll buy you 24 hours. But Jack, if this goes south, it won't. You can't know that. I can't, Jack agreed. But I can try to make sure it doesn't. Carter left with a warning to be careful, and Jack found Emma helping the girls clean up their art supplies. The domestic scene was so normal, it made his chest ache. He seems like a good man, Emma said quietly. He is, but he's right, 24 hours isn't much time. Then we'd better make them count. She stood wincing slightly. You mentioned a computer. Jack led her to his small office off the kitchen, a cramped space dominated by ranch paperwork and an ancient desktop computer. Emma sat down, fingers flying over the keyboard despite her injured shoulder. What are you doing? Jack asked, watching code scroll across the screen. Accessing a secure server Marcus and I set up. If he's okay, he'll have left me a message. She paused, scanning lines of text. There. Oh, thank God. What? She turned the monitor so Jack could see. A simple message, package secure, awaiting delivery instructions, friends in shadows watching. What does that mean? Marcus is alive. He has the evidence we gathered the package, and he has allies, probably his sister in the FBI. The real FBI, not the corrupted parts. Emma typed quickly. I'm sending him coordinates, somewhere we can meet. Where? Emma looked up at him. That depends. How far are you willing to go with this? Before Jack could answer, Lily burst into the office. Daddy, there's more cars coming. Big black ones. Jack's blood went cold. He rushed to the window Emma closed behind. 3 black SUVs were turning onto his property, driving fast too fast for a friendly visit. Take the girls, Jack said urgently. Back door. The barn. There's a hayloft back corner, hidden space behind the hay bales. Go. What about you? I'll buy time. Go. Emma grabbed both girls' hands. We're playing a game, she said, her voice admirably calm. Hide and seek. We need to be very, very quiet. Is it bad people? Rose asked, too perceptive for her age. Maybe, Emma said honestly. But your daddy's going to protect us. Come on. They slipped out the back as the vehicles pulled up front. Jack grabbed his shotgun from the hall closet, checking it was loaded. Through the window, he saw men in dark suits getting out, at least 6 of them. The man in the lead looked like corporate security, expensive haircut, designer sunglasses, hand resting casually on what was definitely a concealed weapon. Jack stepped onto the porch before they could knock. Shotgun held casually but visibly. Gentlemen, you're on private property. The lead man smiled, all teeth, no warmth. Mr. Morrison, we're looking for someone. A woman. She may be injured, confused, possibly dangerous. Dangerous? Jack kept his voice level. Lady in trouble sounds more like someone who needs help than a threat. She's mentally unstable, the man said smoothly. Off her medication. Her family is very concerned. There's a substantial reward for information leading to her safe return. How substantial? The man's smile widened. $50,000, cash, no questions asked. Jack pretended to consider this. That's a lot of money. It is. Enough to say pay off a ranch's mortgage, fix up a barn, maybe set up college funds for 2 little girls. The threat was subtle but clear. They knew about his finances, his daughters. Jack's finger moved to the trigger guard. Haven't seen any confused women, Jack said. Just Deputy Carter about that wrecked car on the highway. Yes, we heard about that. Terrible accident. The driver really should have stayed with the vehicle. Wandering around injured. Anything could happen to her. Wild animals, exposure, another unfortunate accident. Is that a threat? It's a concern, the man said mildly. We'd hate for anyone else to get hurt. Collateral damage is so messy. From the barn, a sound quickly muffled but audible. The man's head turned sharply. Nice barn, he observed. Mind if we have a look around? Make sure our friend isn't hiding in there, confused and scared. You got a warrant. We're not police, Mr. Morrison, just concerned citizens. Then get off my property. Jack raised the shotgun slightly. Now, the man laughed. 6 of us, 1 of you. That's not great math, rancher. Maybe not, Jack agreed. But this is Montana. You fire a weapon here, every rancher in 5 miles comes running. We look after our own. As if on cue, the sound of another vehicle approached. Not a black SUV, but a battered pickup. Then another. Tom Parker's truck pulled up, followed by Jim Henderson's. Within minutes, 4 trucks had arrived, men stepping out with hunting rifles, faces grim. Everything all right, Jax? Tom Parker called out, his rifle casual in his hands. These gentlemen were just leaving, Jack said. The lead man's smile had faded. He looked at the gathering of ranchers, calculating odds. This isn't over, he said quietly to Jack. She's coming with us one way or another, and anyone who stands in our way will regret it. That sounds like a threat to me, Tom Parker said loudly. You threatening our neighbor city boy. The standoff lasted another tense moment before the lead man stepped back. Let's go, he told his team. We'll be back, with proper authority. They left in a cloud of dust, but Jack knew they wouldn't go far. He turned to his neighbors, overwhelmed with gratitude. Police scanner, Tom Parker explained. Heard there was trouble at your place. Figured you might need backup. I owe you. You owe us nothing, Jim Henderson said firmly. Your daddy would have done the same for any of us, Sarah too. After they left with promises to keep watch, Jack rushed to the barn. He found Emma and the girls in the hayloft, the twins clinging to her despite her injured shoulder. Bad men? Rose asked in a small voice. Gone, Jack assured her. The neighbors scared them away. Like a posse, Lily said, brightening. Like in the movies. Emma's eyes met Jack's over the children's heads. They'll be back. I know, but we bought time. They returned to the house, the girls sticking close to Emma, as if sensing she needed protection as much as they did. Jack made sandwiches while Emma tried to reach Marcus again. He can be here by tonight, she said, reading her screen. With the evidence and backup, real federal agents, ones we can trust. How can you be sure? Because his sister is one of them, Sarah Chen. She's been investigating the corruption in the Bureau for 2 years. This could be the break she needs. So we just have to survive until tonight, Jack said grimly. I should leave, Emma said for the 100th time. Draw them away. Stop, Jack said firmly. We're past that now. They know you were here. Leaving won't make us safer. The afternoon passed in tense preparation. Jack checked and rechecked weapons, secured windows, made sure the girls understood this was serious, not a game. Emma helped despite her injuries, her presence oddly calming to the girls. As the sun began to set, painting the mountains gold, Jack's phone rang. Unknown number. Morrison. This is Marcus Chen. I'm 20 minutes out, but we have a problem. What kind of problem? They've set up roadblocks. Local cops, but paid off. We can't get through without a fight. Jack thought quickly. There's another way. Old logging road comes in from the north. It's rough, but passable. He gave Marcus the directions. Roger that, and Morrison. Thank you for protecting her. Just get here safe. Emma was putting the girls to bed, telling them a story about a brave princess who saved herself instead of waiting for a prince. Jack watched from the doorway, something shifting in his chest at the sight. The princess was very smart, Emma was saying. She knew that sometimes the best person to save you is yourself, but she also learned that it's okay to accept help from friends. Did she live happily ever after? Rose asked sleepily. She's still writing her story, Emma said softly. But I think she's going to be okay. Jack's phone buzzed. Text from Tom Parker. Black SUVs at the main road, at least a dozen men. Whatever you're planning, do it fast. He showed Emma the message. Her face paled, but her voice stayed steady. How long until Marcus arrives? 10 minutes, maybe 15. They won't wait that long. She was right. Through the window, Jack could see headlights approaching, no longer trying to hide. Multiple vehicles surrounding the house. The basement, Jack said suddenly. Root cellar. It connects to the old storm shelter, comes out by the tree line. Take the girls. What about you? Someone needs to be here when Marcus arrives. To delay them. Jack, no. He grabbed her good shoulder, gentle but firm. I've lived here my whole life. This is my land. I know every inch, every hiding spot. I'll be fine. But you need to get the girls safe. Emma looked at him for a long moment, then did something unexpected. She kissed him quick and fierce. Don't you dare die on me, Jack Morrison. We're not done yet. Before he could respond, she was waking the girls, her voice calm but urgent. Remember our hide-and-seek game. We're playing again. Jack watched them disappear into the basement, then turned to face whatever was coming. He had his shotgun, his knowledge of the land, and the absolutely certainty that he would protect his family. All of them, including the woman who'd crashed into his life just 24 hours ago. The vehicles stopped and his yardmen spilling out surrounding the house. The same leader from before approached the porch. Last chance, Morrison. Give her up and you and your daughters live. Keep protecting her and, well, accidents happen. House fires, car crashes, children disappear sometimes. You threatening my children, Jack's voice was deadly quiet. I'm explaining reality. She's one woman, a corrupt criminal woman who's stolen millions. Why die for her? See, that's where you're wrong, Jack said, standing straighter. I'm not dying for anyone. I'm living for something. For the principle that when someone needs help, you help them. For the idea that bullies don't win just because they have money and guns. The man sighed theatrically. How disappointingly noble. He gestured to his men. Search the house, find them. That's when the lights appeared not from the road, but from the sky. Helicopters, 2 of them with FBI emblazoned on the sides. Spotlights blazed down and voices boomed through loudspeakers. This is the FBI. Everyone freeze, weapons down, now. The man's confident expression crumbled. This isn't possible. We own the local bureau office. Maybe, Jack said with grim satisfaction. But you don't own all of it. Federal agents rappelled from the helicopters, while ground units, the real ones Marcus had brought, swarmed the property. The corrupt men were outnumbered, outgunned, and caught completely off guard. Marcus Chen himself, a compact Asian man with sharp eyes and a bulletproof vest, jogged up to Jack. "Morrison, where is she?" "Safe," Jack said, sagging with relief. "With my daughters." "Good man. We've got it from here." The next hour was controlled chaos. Arrests evidence collected the lead man screaming about lawyers and connections that no longer mattered. Jack found Emma and the girls in the storm shelter huddled together, the twins asleep against Emma's chest. "It's over," he said softly. "It's safe." Emma looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. "Really? Really? Marcus is here. The real FBI. They're arresting everyone." She broke down then, sobbing with relief while trying not to wake the girls. Jack gathered all three of them into his arms, his family, strange and sudden as it was. Later, after the girls were back in their beds after statements had been given and evidence transferred, Jack and Emma sat on the porch with Marcus and his sister, FBI agent Sarah Chen. "The corruption went deeper than we thought," Sarah was explaining. "But with Emma's evidence and tonight's arrest, we can clean house. Richard and his associates are finished." "So it's really over?" Emma asked. "This part is," Marcus said gently. "You'll need to testify. There'll be trials, but the immediate danger is past." "What will you do now?" Jack asked Emma. She looked out at the mountain's dark shapes against the starlit sky. "I don't know. For so long I've been running or fighting. I don't know how to just be." "You could stay," Jack said quietly. "For a while. Until you figure it out." Emma turned to him, something soft in her eyes. "Your daughters love you already," Jack finished, "and they're excellent judges of character." "What about you?" Emma asked. "What do you think?" Jack considered his words carefully. "I think everyone deserves a chance to start over. I think my girls need someone besides me and Mrs. Henderson in their lives. And I think—" He paused, then decided on honesty. "I think you belong here more than you know." Marcus and Sarah exchanged glances and quietly excused themselves, leaving Jack and Emma alone on the porch. "I'm complicated," Emma warned. "I have baggage, enemies, a company to rebuild. I'm a widowed rancher with 2 kids, a mortgage, and more stubbornness than sense," Jack countered. "We're all complicated." Emma leaned against his good shoulder, and they sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars. In the house behind them, 2 little girls slept peacefully, unaware that their family had just grown. In the yard, federal agents finished their work. And in the distance, the mountains stood eternal, guarding this small corner of Montana where a millionaire and a rancher had found something neither had been looking for. "Stay," Jack said simply. "Okay," Emma replied, just as simply. And for now, that was enough. The rest, the trials, the recovery, the slow building of trust, and maybe something more, all of that would come. But tonight they were safe. They were together. And sometimes that's all that matters. The first week after the FBI raids passed in a strange bubble of normalcy that felt almost surreal to Emma. She woke each morning in the guest room with its hand-painted roses, helped Jack make breakfast for the girls, and tried to pretend that federal prosecutors weren't building cases, with her testimony that reporters weren't circling the nearby towns like vultures, that her entire life hadn't imploded and reformed into something unrecognizable. On the 7th morning, she found Jack already awake in the kitchen, staring at a thick manila envelope that had been delivered by courier at dawn. His face was grim as he pushed it toward her. "From your lawyers," he said quietly. "Marcus had them send it here." Emma opened it with trembling fingers, scanning the documents inside. Board resolutions, emergency meetings, votes of no confidence. Her remaining allies at Sterling Industries were fighting to keep her position secure, but the sharks were circling. "They want me back in Denver," she said, sinking into a chair. "Emergency board meeting in 3 days. If I don't show, they'll vote me out as CEO." "Then you go," Jack said simply, though something flickered in his eyes. "This is your company, your legacy. It's not that simple. The moment I surface in Denver, every reporter in the country will descend. And Richard's remaining associates, the ones who haven't been arrested yet." She trailed off, unable to voice the fear that still gripped her. So we go together, Jack said, surprising her. The girls have fall break coming up. We could make it a trip. Emma stared at him. You'd do that, leave the ranch, drag your daughters into my mess. Our mess, Jack corrected gently. We're in this together now, remember? Before Emma could respond, Lily bounded into the kitchen, Rose trailing behind her more quietly. They'd adapted to Emma's presence with the resilience of children treating her less like a guest and more like a piece of furniture that had always been there. Emma, are you leaving? Rose asked, having overheard part of the conversation. The fear in her voice was unmistakable. Not leaving, Emma said quickly, pulling the girl onto her lap despite her still tender shoulder. Just taking a trip. To Denver. Can we come? Lily asked excitedly. I've never been to a big city. Jack and Emma exchanged glances over the girls' heads. Would you want to? Emma asked carefully. It might be boring, lots of grown-up meetings. But you'll be there, Rose said simply, as if that settled everything. The next 3 days were a whirlwind of preparation. Marcus arrived with a security team transforming the ranch into something from a spy movie. Sarah Chen came too, coordinating with local law enforcement to ensure their safe passage to Denver. The press knows something's happening, Sarah warned, showing them her tablet with headlines speculating about Emma Sterling's disappearance. The moment you surface, it'll be a feeding frenzy. Let them come, Emma said, with more confidence than she felt. I'm tired of hiding. The night before they left, Jack found Emma on the porch, staring at the stars. She'd taken to spending her evenings there, wrapped in one of his old jackets that smelled of hay and horses. Scared? He asked, settling beside her. Terrified, she admitted. Not of Richard's people or the board, of going back to who I was. That cold, ruthless woman who cared more about stock prices than people. You were never just that, Jack said softly. That woman wouldn't have exposed Richard's crimes, wouldn't have risked everything to do the right thing. You didn't know me before, Emma said. I was hard, cruel sometimes. I fired people without thinking about their families, destroyed competitors, without considering the collateral damage. Sarah would have hated me. Jack was quiet for a moment. Sarah believed people could change. She would have seen who you're becoming, not who you were. Emma turned to look at him, this steady, good man who'd upended everything she thought she knew about herself. What if I can't do it? What if I go back to that world and lose myself again? Then you come home, Jack said simply. Here, to us. The word home lodged in Emma's chest like a warm stone. When had this ranch with its creaking floors and outdated kitchen become home? When had these people become hers to protect and cherish? The drive to Denver took 8 hours, 2 SUVs, with Marcus's security team forming a convoy. The girls treated it like an adventure, peppering Emma with questions about the city, about her life there. She found herself seeing it through their eyes, not as a battlefield of corporate warfare, but as a place of wonder and possibility. They checked into a hotel under assumed names, though Emma knew the ruse wouldn't last long. Marcus had scheduled the board meeting for the following morning, hoping to catch the opposition off guard. You need to show strength, he advised, going over the agenda in her suite. No weakness, no apologies. You're still the majority shareholder. Make them remember that. But that night, as Emma stood before the mirror in a designer suit that had been delivered from her penthouse, she barely recognized herself. The clothes felt like armor, but armor for a war she no longer wanted to fight. A knock at the adjoining door interrupted her thoughts. Jack entered with the girls who were in their pajamas, faces bright with excitement despite the late hour. We made you something, Lily announced, producing a crumpled piece of paper. It was a drawing, stick figures holding hands labeled Our Family in Rose's careful printing. Emma, Jack, and the twins with the ranch in the background and surprisingly accurate horses in the pasture. For luck tomorrow, Rose explained solemnly. So you remember you're not alone. Emma's carefully applied makeup was ruined by tears, but she didn't care. She pulled both girls into a fierce hug, the drawing clutched to her chest like a talisman. Thank you, she whispered. It's perfect. After Jack took the girls back to bed, he returned to find Emma redoing her makeup with steadier hands. Better? He asked. Better, she confirmed, tucking the drawing into her portfolio. Whatever happens tomorrow, I know what matters now. The Sterling Industries building loomed against the Denver skyline like a glass and steel monument to ambition. Emma had once loved this building, had felt powerful striding through its marble lobby. Now it felt like entering a mausoleum. The press was waiting, of course, hundreds of them shouting questions, cameras flashing. Marcus's team formed a protective wedge, but Emma stopped halfway to the entrance, turning to face the mob. "Ms. Sterling, where have you been? Are the corruption allegations true? Will you step down as CEO?" Emma raised her hand for silence and, surprisingly, got it. "I'll make a brief statement. For the past 2 weeks, I've been cooperating with federal authorities to root out corruption within Sterling Industries and beyond. I will not step down. I will not be intimidated. And I will not allow my family's company to be used for criminal purposes any longer." "Who's the man with you?" someone shouted, having spotted Jack despite his attempt to stay back. Emma glanced at Jack, who gave her a small nod. "Someone who reminded me what integrity looks like," she said simply, then walked into the building. The boardroom was on the 40th floor, all windows and intimidation. The board was already assembled 12 members, most of whom Emma had known since childhood. Some looked sympathetic, others hostile, all curious. "Emma." Harold Fitzgerald, the board chairman, stood to greet her. He'd been her father's friend, had bounced her on his knee as a child. Now his eyes were cold, calculating. "We were concerned when you disappeared." "I didn't disappear," Emma said, taking her seat at the head of the table. "I survived an assassination attempt and sought safety while the FBI did their job." "An assassination attempt that conveniently removed you from scrutiny," board member Patricia Walling said acidly. She'd always resented Emma's youth, her inherited power. "How do we know you weren't involved in Richard's schemes?" "Because I'm the one who exposed them," Emma said evenly, "at great personal cost." "Cost to your reputation, you mean?" Patricia continued. "Sterling Industries stock has dropped 30%. Our partners are fleeing. The Sterling name is toxic." "Temporarily," Emma countered. "Once the trials are over, once we've shown we can clean house, confidence will return." "Under whose leadership?" This from David Chen, no relation to Marcus, who'd been angling for the CEO position for years. "You've been compromised, Emma. Your judgment in trusting Richard alone was a mistake," Emma interrupted. "One I've paid for. But my judgment in exposing him was sound. My judgment in cooperating with authorities was correct. And my judgment now in fighting to save this company is what my father would expect." "Your father isn't here," Harold said quietly. "And invoking his memory won't save you if we vote no confidence." Emma stood, moving to the windows that overlooked the city. "You're right. My father isn't here. He died when I was 15, along with my mother, leaving me to figure out how to run an empire before I could legally drink. I made mistakes. I became someone hard, someone cruel, because I thought that's what strength looked like." She turned back to face them. "But I've learned something recently. Real strength isn't about crushing opponents or maximizing profits at any cost. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it costs you everything. It's about protecting people who depend on you even when you're scared." "Pretty words," Patricia scoffed. "But shareholders don't care about philosophy." "No." Emma pulled out her tablet, connecting it to the boardroom screen. "Then let's talk numbers. In the past week, while you've been planning this coup, I've been working. 17 major contracts saved through personal calls to CEOs who still trust the Sterling name. A new transparency initiative that's already attracted 3 activist investors. And this? The screen showed a press release that hadn't gone public yet. A partnership with Chen Security International to provide ethical corporate security services. Marcus Chen has agreed to merge his company with our security division, bringing his reputation and connections. The board members exchanged glances, calculating this new information. Furthermore, Emma continued, I've been in discussion with several children's hospitals about establishing the Sterling Foundation for Medical Ethics, funded by recovered assets from Richard's theft. We turn this scandal into an opportunity to rebuild better. And if we still vote no confidence? Harold asked. Emma's smile was sharp, a glimpse of the old Emma. Then I use my 43% stake to wage a proxy fight that will make the last 2 weeks look like a garden party. I'll drag every skeleton out of every closet in this room. David, should we discuss the Henderson deal from 2018, Patricia? How about your son's interesting arrangement with our Singapore office? The room went very still. Or, Emma said, her voice softening, we work together to save the company we all claim to love. Your choice. The vote when it came was closer than she'd liked, 7-5 in her favor. But it was enough. Emma kept her composure until she reached the elevator, then sagged against Jack, who'd been waiting in the anteroom. You did it, he said, pride evident in his voice. The first battle, she corrected. There'll be more. But not today, Jack said firmly. Today you won. The girls are waiting in the hotel. They want to celebrate with ice cream. Emma laughed, tension draining away. Ice cream sounds perfect. But as they left the building, Emma's phone rang. Marcus's name on the screen made her stomach clench. We have a problem, he said without preamble. Richard's been murdered, in federal custody, and they're trying to pin it on you. The world seemed to tilt. What? How is that possible? Someone wanted him silenced before he could testify. They're claiming you ordered it, that you have connections inside the prison system. That's insane. I know, but there's more. Emma, they've taken the girls. The phone slipped from Emma's numb fingers, clattering on the marble floor. Jack caught it, his face going white as Marcus repeated the news. Lily and Rose were at the hotel pool with the security detail. Someone grabbed them. Professional job. We have surveillance footage, but who? Jack's voice was deadly quiet. We don't know yet, but there's been a ransom demand. Not for money. They want Emma to confess to ordering Richard's murder and resign from Sterling Industries. She has 6 hours. Emma's legs gave out. Jack caught her, held her upright, his own body shaking with rage and fear. We'll find them, Marcus was saying. Sarah's mobilizing every resource. But Emma wasn't listening. All she could think about were those 2 bright faces, the drawing they'd made her, the trust in their eyes. She'd brought this danger into their lives, and now they were paying the price. I'll do it, she said, voice hollow. I'll confess to whatever they want. Emma, no, Jack said fiercely. That's not... They're children, Jack, your children. I won't let them be hurt because of me. Our children, Jack corrected, and the possession in his voice made her look up. You said it yourself, we're family now, and we don't abandon family. Then what do we do? Jack's expression was harder than she'd ever seen it. We get them back, and then we end this once and for all. The next 6 hours were the longest of Emma's life. Marcus had commandeered a conference room at the hotel, turning it into a command center. Sarah Chen arrived with a full FBI task force. Security footage was analyzed, witnesses interviewed, every contact Emma and Richard had ever shared scrutinized. Here, Sarah said, suddenly pointing at a screen, this woman leaving the pool area just before the grab. I know her. Emma looked and gasped. That's Patricia Walling's assistant from the board. Patricia was Richard's silent partner. Marcus said, pieces falling into place. She must have been deeper in this than we knew. When Richard was arrested, she needed him silenced. And she needed me gone to take control of Sterling Industries, Emma added. 2 birds with 1 stone. We have Patricia's address, Sarah said, already moving. Property's in her name, her children's names. Wait, Jack interrupted. If we go in guns blazing, she might hurt the girls. Then what do you suggest? Sarah asked. Jack looked at Emma. We give her what she wants, sort of. The plan was insane, but it was their best shot. Emma would agree to the confession, insist on delivering it in person to ensure the girls' safety. Patricia, arrogant and convinced of her victory, would likely agree. You're betting my daughter's lives on Patricia's ego, Jack said quietly as Emma prepared to make the call. I'm betting on her greed, Emma corrected. She wants to see me broken, humiliated. She'll want to witness it personally. The call was brief. Patricia didn't even pretend innocence, her cultured voice dripping with satisfaction. The old warehouse district, she said. Sterling property, ironically. Come alone. I want proof the girls are safe. A pause, then Lily's voice scared but strong. Emma, Daddy. We're coming, baby. Emma said, tears streaming. Be brave." "Rose is scared," Lily said, "but I told her you'd save us. You always save things." The line went dead. The warehouse Patricia had chosen was one of Sterling Industries' first properties abandoned for decades. Emma knew it well. She'd played there as a child when her father had talked about redeveloping it. She entered alone as demanded, though she knew Marcus's team was positioned around the perimeter, that Jack was closer than Patricia realized. The interior was vast, dark machinery looming like dinosaurs in the shadows. Patricia stood in a pool of light in the center, impeccably dressed as always. The girls were beside her, hands bound duct tape over their mouths, but apparently unharmed. "Emma?" Patricia said pleasantly. "So good of you to come." "Let them go," Emma said. "You have me. That's what you wanted." "Part of what I wanted," Patricia corrected. "I also want to hear you admit what you did. How you ordered Richard killed to silence him." "Fine. I ordered Richard killed. I arranged it through contacts in the prison system. Is that what you want to hear?" Patricia produced a phone recording. "Say it again, clearer, with more detail." Emma took a breath, but before she could speak, Rose made a sound muffled by tape, but urgent. Her eyes were fixed on something behind Patricia. "I wouldn't do that," a new voice said. Harold Fitzgerald stepped from the shadows, a gun in his hand. "Not unless you want to join Richard." Patricia spun, shocked. "Harold, what are you—" "Cleaning up your mess as usual," Harold said coldly. "You were supposed to handle this quietly. Instead, you kidnap children, create a scene. It's working." She's about to confess. "To a crime you committed," Harold said. "Yes, I know about Richard. You always were too emotional, Patricia. Too personal." Emma's mind raced, pieces clicking together. "You're the real power. Patricia was just another tool." Harold smiled. "Smart girl. Your father would be proud. Too bad you inherited his inconvenient conscience, too." "You knew my father. I was his best friend, his partner, until he discovered what I was doing with the company's resources and threatened to expose me. That car accident was very convenient." The world tilted again. "You killed my parents." "I arranged it," Harold said casually. "Just as I arranged Richard's introduction to you, knowing his weaknesses would eventually serve my purposes, just as I've arranged everything for 20 years. Why tell me now? Because you're about to disappear. Tragic murder-suicide. Guilty Emma Sterling kills Patricia Wallings and herself, unable to live with what she's done. The children, unfortunately, witnesses who had to be silenced." "No?" Emma started forward, but Harold swung the gun toward the girls. Ah, don't move." He smiled coldly. "You know I actually liked your parents, but business is business." That's when Jack struck. He'd been hiding among the machinery, waiting for the right moment. The tackle sent Harold sprawling, the gun skittering across the concrete. Patricia screamed, reaching for it, but Emma was faster, kicking it away, and then putting Patricia down with a right cross that would have made her self-defense instructor proud. Federal agents swarmed in, Sarah Chen leading the charge. In the chaos, Emma rushed to the girls, pulling off the tape, gathering them into her arms. "You saved us," Rose sobbed. "Just like Lily said." "We saved each other," Emma corrected, holding them tight as Jack joined the embrace. Harold and Patricia were arrested, their confessions recorded by the devices Marcus had hidden on Emma. The conspiracy, 20 years in the making, finally unraveled completely. Hours later, after statements and medical checks and more tears than Emma thought she had in her, they sat in a Denver diner at 3 a.m. The girls were asleep in the booth, heads on Emma's lap, while she and Jack shared coffee and exhaustion. "It's over," Jack said quietly. "Really over this time." "The danger, yes," Emma agreed. "But the rest, the company, the trials, the rebuilding, that's just beginning." "You could walk away," Jack suggested. "Sell your shares, leave it all behind." Emma looked down at the sleeping girls, then at Jack. "I could, but that's not who I am. Sterling Industries can be better, can do good. I want to prove that. I want to build something these girls can be proud of." "For Montana," Emma smiled. "Why not it's 2020? 25. I can run a company from anywhere. And I happen to know a ranch that needs a better internet connection. Jack laughed quietly. You're serious. You want to stay. I want to come home, Emma corrected. There's a difference. Jack reached across the table, taking her hand. Then come home. The drive back to Montana took 2 days. They stopped at tourist traps, let the girls pick ridiculous souvenirs, acted like a normal family on a road trip. By the time they reached the ranch, news had broken about Harold and Patricia's arrests, about the true story behind the Sterling tragedy. Emma's phone rang constantly. Board members, reporters, lawyers. She ignored them all, focusing instead on helping Rose feed the chickens, on watching Lily's writing lesson, on learning to make Jack's grandmother's soup recipe. You can't hide forever, Marcus warned during a video call. The company needs leadership. I'm not hiding, Emma said, looking out at the mountains. I'm healing. There's a difference. It took a month to restructure everything. Emma stepped back from day-to-day operations, appointing a new CEO she trusted while remaining board chair. She established the Sterling Family Foundation with recovered assets focusing on rural medical care and corporate ethics education. She turned the old warehouse where Harold had planned to kill them into a community center. And she stayed in Montana. The ranch became her headquarters, complete with satellite internet and a converted barn office. She ran board meetings via video, flew to Denver when necessary, but always came home to Jack and the girls. One evening, 6 months after that first terrifying night, Emma stood on the porch watching Jack teach the girls to rope. They were terrible at it, dissolving into giggles every time they missed, which was often. You know they're never going to be ranch hands, she called out. Doesn't matter, Jack called back. They're happy. And they were. The haunted look had finally left Rose's eyes. Lily's nightmares had stopped. They called Emma Mama M, now a compromise that made everyone cry the first time it happened. Sarah Chen visited regularly, having taken over the Denver FBI office's anti-corruption unit. Marcus had moved his security company to Kalispell, close enough to maintain protection when needed. The Parkers and Hendersons had adopted Emma as one of their own, Mrs. Henderson, teaching her to can preserves and quilt. Never thought I'd see the day a Sterling would be putting up jam, the older woman said with approval. Never thought I'd see the day I'd want to, Emma admitted. That night, after the girls were asleep, Emma found Jack in the barn checking on a sick horse. She watched him work, gentle and competent, and felt that familiar warmth in her chest. Marry me, she said suddenly. Jack looked up, startled. What? Marry me, Emma repeated. I know it's fast, I know it's complicated, but I almost lost everything that mattered, and I don't want to waste any more time. Jack set down his tools, crossing to her. Emma Sterling, are you proposing to me in a barn? Emma Morrison sounds better anyway, she said. If you'll have me. Complicated past corporate baggage and all. Jack kissed her answer long and sweet while the horse whickered approval and the barn cats twined around their legs. They married 2 months later in the meadow behind the ranch where wildflowers grew. The girls were flower girls, of course, throwing petals with enthusiasm, if not accuracy. Marcus was Emma's man of honor. Sarah Chen stood for Jack, and what seemed like half of Montana attended. The reception was in the barn, decorated with lights and flowers, and the children's artwork. Harold Fitzgerald had been convicted by then sentenced to life. Patricia had pled guilty to avoid the death penalty. Richard's other associates were falling like dominoes. The Sterling name, once tainted, was slowly being rehabilitated. But none of that mattered as Emma danced with her new husband while their daughters spun circles around them, drunk on cake and happiness. No regrets? Jack asked, holding her close. None, Emma said firmly. This is what I was looking for all along. I just didn't know it. A ranch in Montana. A home, Emma corrected. A family. A place where I can be myself, not the Sterling heiress or the CEO or the victim. Just Emma. Just Emma is pretty amazing, Jack said. Later, as the sun set behind the mountains and the party continued around them, Emma stood apart for a moment, watching it all. Rose was on Marcus's shoulders. Lily was teaching Sarah Chen a complicated clapping game, and Jack was laughing with the neighbors about something involving a tractor. This was her life now. Not board meetings and stock prices, though those still existed in the background. But this family dinners and homework, help early morning feedings and late-night conversations on the porch, small-town festivals, and large animal emergencies. She thought of that night 9 months ago, bleeding in an overturned car, certain her life was over. In a way, it had been. The old Emma Sterling had died on that highway. But what had been born from that ending was so much better than anything she could have imagined. "Mama M," Lily called. "Come dance with us." Emma went, letting her daughters pull her into their chaotic circle, Jack joining them, all of them laughing as they spun under the vast Montana sky. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, always did. The company still needed guidance, the trials were ongoing, and running a ranch while managing a corporate empire was its own kind of insanity. But tonight she was home. Tonight she was loved. Tonight she was exactly where she belonged. The music played on and the Morrison family danced together, and whole proof that sometimes the best families are the ones you choose, the ones that choose you back, the ones that save you in ways you never knew you needed saving. And in the old ranch house on the refrigerator between the girls' drawings and the grocery list hung a newspaper clipping with a photo from the wedding. The headline read, "Sterling Heiress Finds Fortune in Family." But Emma had penned her own caption underneath, "Local rancher's wife finds everything." It was, she thought, a much better story. 3 years had passed since that wedding in the meadow, and Emma Morrison had almost convinced herself that the danger was truly behind them. The ranch thrived. The girls were flourishing in 4th grade, and Sterling Industries had been transformed into a model of corporate ethics. She should have known that peace never lasted long in her world. The morning it all started again was deceptively normal. Emma was in the converted barn office mediating a conference call between the Singapore and New York offices while Jack worked with a new horse in the paddock. The girls were at school, their laughter from breakfast still echoing in her memory. That's when Marcus burst through the door, his face grave in a way she hadn't seen since those terrible days 3 years ago. "We need to talk," he said, waiting for her to mute the call. "Harold Fitzgerald is dead." Emma felt ice form in her stomach. "How? Murdered? In his cell? Professional hit made to look like suicide." Marcus set a tablet on her desk showing crime scene photos she didn't want to see. But that's not the worst part. He left a message, written in his own blood. The words were simple, chilling, the roots run deeper. "What does that mean?" Emma asked, though she feared she already knew. "Harold wasn't the top," Marcus said grimly. "There's someone else, someone who's been waiting, watching. And Emma, they've already made their first move." He pulled up another image, a photograph taken that morning at the girls' school. Lily and Rose at recess, playing on the swings, unaware of the telephoto lens capturing them. The message attached was brief, "Beautiful family, shame if something happened to it." Emma's hands trembled as she ended the conference call without explanation. "Where are they now?" "Safe. Sarah has agents at the school, discreet but present. Jack doesn't know yet." "He needs to." Emma was already moving, heading for the paddock. They found Jack working with the stallion, his movements calm and patient, unaware his world was about to shatter again. "Jack!" Emma called, and something in her voice made him turn immediately. She showed him everything, watched his face transform from confusion to fury to that deadly calm that was somehow worse than rage. "Who?" was all he asked. "We don't know yet," Marcus admitted. "But whoever it is has resources, patience, and intelligence. They've been waiting 3 years for this moment." "Why now?" Jack asked. Emma had been thinking the same thing. "The government contracts. Sterling Industries just won the biggest defense contract in company history. Whoever this is, they want it, and they're using the same playbook, threaten the family to control me." "Not this time," Jack said flatly. "We're not playing defense again. We're not waiting for them to come to us." But even as he spoke, Emma's phone rang. Unknown number, she answered on speaker. "Mrs. Morrison." The voice was cultured, feminine, oddly familiar. "Or should I say Ms. Sterling? You never really left that identity behind, did you? Who is this? Someone who knew your parents well, someone who watched you grow up, someone who's been very patient." Emma's mind raced through possibilities, landing on one that made her blood freeze. "Victoria." A laugh silvery and cold. "Very good, though it's Judge Whitmore now. Amazing how far one can rise when properly motivated." Victoria Whitmore. Her mother's best friend who'd consoled teenage Emma at the funeral, who'd helped her navigate those first terrible months, who'd been at every birthday, every Christmas, until she'd mysteriously distanced herself when Emma took over the company. "You were part of it," Emma breathed. "All along." "Part of it?" "Dear girl, I designed it. Harold was just a tool like Richard, like Patricia. They all thought they were players, but they were just pieces on my board." "Why," Emma's voice cracked, "you loved my parents." "I loved your mother," Victoria corrected. "And she chose your father instead of me. Chose his name, his company, his conventional life. So I took it all piece by piece. First them, then their legacy, and now you. You're insane." "I'm a federal judge with connections you can't imagine," Victoria said calmly. "I have judges, prosecutors, FBI agents in my pocket. The system you trusted, I own significant parts of it. And right now, I own you. What do you want?" "Everything. Sterling Industries, your fortune, your complete destruction. But I'm sporting. I'll give you a chance. There's a judicial review tomorrow of Harold's conviction. New evidence has mysteriously appeared suggesting you framed him. If I oversee that review, which I will, you'll be arrested for conspiracy murder and treason given those defense contracts. Your children will enter foster care. Your husband will lose the ranch." Emma's free hand found Jack's gripping tight. Unless you transfer Sterling Industries to a trust I control and disappear. Leave the country. Leave your family, vanish completely. You have 24 hours to decide." The line went dead. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the barn. Then Jack spoke, his voice deadly quiet. "We're not running. We're not separating. We're not letting her win. Jack, she's a federal judge. She has the system." "Then we go outside the system," Marcus interrupted. "I've been tracking irregularities in Harold's prison for months. Guards paid off visitors who don't exist in any database. If Victoria's been operating this network, there's evidence. Evidence she'll destroy the moment we move against her," Emma pointed out. "Not if she doesn't know we're moving." Sarah Chen's voice came from the doorway. She'd arrived while they were talking, her expression grim. "I've suspected corruption in the judicial branch for years, but could never prove it. This might be our chance." They spent the next hours planning, calling in every favor, every alliance built over the past 3 years. The girls came home from school with their security detail unaware of the storm building around them. Emma watched them do homework at the kitchen table, their normalcy both precious and painful. "Mama, am you okay?" Rose asked, always the more perceptive twin. "Just worried about work stuff," Emma managed. "You should ride Buttercup," Lily suggested seriously. "Daddy says horses make everything better." That night, after the girls were asleep, the kitchen became a war room. Sarah had brought a team of agents she trusted, absolutely men and women who'd been marginalized by the corrupt system, eager to fight back. Marcus's security specialists set up surveillance equipment that would make the NSA jealous. And at the center of it all, Emma worked her phone calling board members, investors, journalists she trusted. "We need to make Victoria move first," she said. "Force her to expose herself." "How?" Jack asked. Emma smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "By giving her exactly what she doesn't expect. I'm going to that judicial review tomorrow." "That's suicide," Marcus protested. "She'll have you arrested on the spot." "Maybe, but it'll be public on record. And while she's focused on me," Emma looked at Sarah, "you'll be executing search warrants on every property she owns." "I can't get warrants without cause," Sarah pointed out. "You can if a federal judge signs them," Emma said. "And I happen to know Judge Catherine Reeves has had suspicions about Victoria for years. She's just been waiting for enough evidence to act." The next morning, Emma dressed carefully in her best suit, the one that made her look like the sterling heiress she'd been born to be. Jack watched from the doorway, his expression unreadable. "You don't have to do this," he said. "Yes, I do. For them." She nodded toward the girls' room. "For us. For everyone Victoria's hurt over the years." He crossed to her, pulled her close. "Come back to me." "Always, she promised. The federal courthouse in Denver was a circus, media everywhere alerted by anonymous tips about the dramatic review. Emma walked through them like a queen head high, ignoring the shouted questions. In the courtroom, Victoria presided from the bench, her face a mask of professional neutrality that didn't quite hide her satisfaction. "This review has been called to examine new evidence in the Harold Fitzgerald case," Victoria announced, "evidence suggesting prosecutorial misconduct and conspiracy." The prosecutor, one of Victoria's people Emma recognized, began presenting the evidence. Doctored documents, manufactured witnesses, a careful narrative painting Emma as a murderous mastermind who'd eliminated everyone who stood in her way. Emma sat quietly through it all, even as the gallery murmured, even as reporters typed furiously. She waited until Victoria asked with false concern, "Miss Sterling, excuse me. Mrs. Morrison, do you have anything to say to these allegations?" Emma stood slowly. "I do, Your Honor. I'd like to confess." The courtroom erupted. Victoria's eyes gleamed with triumph. "Order, Mrs. Morrison. Are you saying you wish to confess to conspiracy and murder?" "Oh, no," Emma said clearly. "I want to confess that I've been recording every conversation we've had for the past 6 months, Victoria, including the one yesterday where you admitted to murdering my parents." Victoria went white. "That's impossible and inadmissible and already in the hands of federal agents who aren't on your payroll," as Emma continued. "Right now they're searching your home, your office, your safety deposit boxes. They're finding the real evidence, the payments to Harold, to the prison guards who killed him, to the network of corruption you've built over 20 years. "Bailiff, arrest this woman," Victoria commanded, but the bailiff didn't move. He was one of Sarah's people placed there that morning. "I don't think so," a new voice said from the back of the courtroom. Judge Catherine Reeves entered, followed by federal marshals. "Victoria Whitmore, you're under arrest for murder, conspiracy, corruption, and treason." Victoria stood, her composure finally cracking. "You can't do this. I have judges, senators, the attorney general. Had," Sarah Chen corrected, entering with more agents. "Past tense, your network started flipping the moment we showed them the evidence. Amazing how quickly loyalty crumbles when facing life in prison." As they led Victoria away, she turned to Emma one last time. "Your mother would be ashamed of you." Emma met her gaze steadily. "My mother would be alive if not for you, and she would be proud that I stopped you." The aftermath was chaos. Media frenzy, congressional hearings, a massive judicial review that would reshape the federal bench. Emma testified for days, revealing everything, holding nothing back. The corruption was deeper than anyone had imagined, but it was also finite. Victoria had been the spider at the center of the web, and with her gone, it collapsed. 3 weeks later, Emma sat in the barn office exhausted, but finally free. The last of the trials were underway. Sterling Industries' stock had actually risen from the positive publicity, and most importantly, her family was safe. Really, truly, permanently safe. Jack found her there staring at her computer screen without seeing it. "It's over," he said gently. "I know, I trusted her, Victoria. She held me when my parents died, knowing she'd killed them. What kind of person does that?" "A broken one," Jack said. "A evil one, but not one who wins in the end." The girls burst in then, full of excitement about a school play they were going to be in. Lily was a tree, Rose was a butterfly, and they needed costumes immediately. The normalcy of it, the beautiful ordinariness, made Emma's eyes fill with tears. "Mama, why are you crying?" Rose asked, concerned. "Happy tears," Emma assured her. "The very happiest tears." That evening, the whole extended family gathered for dinner, Marcus and his new wife Sarah, and her partner the Hendersons, the Parkers. What felt like half of Montana crammed into their kitchen. The girls performed their play preview, Lily forgetting her lines and making up new ones, Rose spinning until she was dizzy. "A toast?" Marcus said, raising his beer. "To Emma Morrison, who brought down a corruption ring spanning decades." "To Jack Morrison," Sarah countered, who stood by her through it all. "To the girls," Mrs. Henderson added, "who remind us what we're fighting for." "To family," Emma said simply. "All of it, blood and chosen." They drank, they laughed, they told stories that grew more elaborate with each telling. And when everyone finally left and the girls were in bed, Emma and Jack sat on their porch looking at the stars. "Any regrets?" Jack asked, echoing his question from their wedding night. Emma considered. She thought of the Sterling Empire now run by a board she trusted while she worked remotely from Montana. She thought of the judicial reforms being implemented, the corruption being rooted out. She thought of Victoria facing life in prison, her twisted love turned to poison. No, she said finally. No regrets. Every choice, every pain, every fear, it all led here. To this porch, this life, this family. Even being a rancher's wife in Montana. Especially that, Emma laughed, though I do have one request. Anything. Can we please get better internet? Running a multi-billion-dollar company on rural Wi-Fi is killing me. Jack laughed, pulling her close. I'll see what I can do. A month later, fiber optic cables were being laid. The ranch was getting a tech upgrade that would make it the most connected farm in Montana. Emma split her time between board meetings and horseback rides, between corporate strategy and homework help. It shouldn't have worked, but it did. The girls grew taller, smarter, more themselves with each passing day. Lily developed Emma's strategic mind and Jack's stubborn streak. Rose showed an affinity for animals that suggested a veterinary future and a gentle wisdom that reminded everyone of Sarah. They called Emma Mom, now the Mama M, naturally evolving, and every time they did, her heart expanded. One morning, Emma woke to find Jack already up, standing at their bedroom window watching the sunrise. "What are you thinking?" she asked, joining him. "About how different life is from what I planned," he said. "I thought I'd raise the girls alone, run the ranch until I couldn't anymore, be buried next to Sarah on the hill. Do you miss it? The life you planned?" "No," Jack said simply. "Because that life didn't have you in it. And I can't imagine any life without you now." Emma kissed him long in sweet-tasting coffee and promises on his lips. "I love you, Jack Morrison." "I love you too, Emma Morrison." "Mom, Dad." The horses are out again. Lily's voice carried from downstairs, followed by Rose's laughter and the sound of boots being pulled on. Emma and Jack looked at each other and sighed in unison, then headed down to wrangle escaped horses with their daughters, their normal, chaotic, perfect life. Later that day, a package arrived with no return address. Emma opened it carefully, finding inside a single photograph her parents on their wedding day, young and in love, unaware of the tragedy that awaited them. On the back in handwriting, she didn't recognize "They would be proud." A friend from the shadows. Emma would never know who sent it, someone from Victoria's network who'd turned good, perhaps, or someone who'd loved her parents truly. But she framed it, placed it on the mantel next to photos of Jack and Sarah's wedding, of the girls as babies of their own wedding in the meadow. The past and present together, the dead and living united in this house that had seen so much pain and joy. That night, as she tucked the girls into bed, Rose asked, "Mom, will you tell us the story again?" "Which story, sweetheart?" "The one about the princess who saved herself but found a family too." Emma sat on the edge of the bed, Lily scooting over to make room. "Once upon a time, there was a princess who thought she had to be strong all by herself." She told the story differently, each time adding new details, new adventures. But the ending was always the same. The princess learned that true strength came not from standing alone, but from standing together, that real treasure wasn't gold but love, that the best families were the ones you chose and who chose you back. By the time she finished, both girls were asleep. Emma kissed their foreheads, turned off the light, and found Jack waiting in the hallway. "Good story," he said softly. "True story," Emma corrected. "The very best kind." They walked to their room hand in hand, past the photos and memories, past the evidence of a life rebuilt from ashes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, it always did. The company needed attention. The ranch had its endless demands, the girls would grow and change and eventually leave. But tonight, in this house in Montana, with her husband beside her and her daughters safe in their beds, Emma Morrison had everything she'd never known she wanted. The heiress who'd lost everything had gained the world, not the world of corporate power and wealth, though she still had that, but the world that mattered. Home, family, love. And that was worth more than all the sterling fortune combined. The moon rose over the mountains, casting silver light across the ranch. In the barn, horses settled for the night. In the house, a family slept peacefully. no longer haunted by threats or fear. And on the kitchen table next to tomorrow's to-do list and the girls' permission slips sat Emma's laptop closed and forgotten. Because some nights the most powerful thing a CEO could do was choose to be just a mom, just a wife, just a woman who'd found her way home against all odds. The story wasn't over. Stories like this never really ended. There would be more chapters, more adventures, more quiet moments and dramatic ones. But the foundation was solid now, built on truth and trust, and the unshakable belief that love could conquer corruption, that family could defeat fear, that sometimes the best revenge against those who tried to break you was simply to live well. And Emma Morrison, formerly Sterling, was living very well indeed. As sleep finally took her, she heard Jack whisper, "Thank you." "For what?" she murmured. "For crashing into my life." She smiled in the darkness. "Best accident I ever had." And it was. Because sometimes the road to happiness isn't straight or smooth. Sometimes it involves overturned cars and federal conspiracies, corrupt judges, and midnight rescues. Sometimes it requires losing everything to find what really matters. But in the end, if you're very lucky and very brave, you end up exactly where you're supposed to be. Home. 5 more years had passed since Victoria's arrest, and the Morrison Ranch had settled into a rhythm that felt permanent, unshakable. The girls were 15 now, all legs and opinions, navigating high school with the same determination they'd inherited from both their parents. Emma had just closed her laptop after a successful board meeting when she heard the unfamiliar sound of a helicopter approaching. Jack emerged from the barn, shading his eyes against the afternoon sun. The girls home from school came out onto the porch. They all watched as the helicopter circled once before landing in the far pasture, scattering the horses. Marcus stepped out first, his face grim in a way that made Emma's stomach clench. Behind him was someone Emma hadn't seen in 8 years. David Sterling, her cousin, the one who'd disappeared after her parents' death, leaving her to handle the empire alone. "David," Emma breathed, barely recognizing the weathered man walking toward them. He'd aged decades in those 8 years, his once polished appearance replaced by scars and a permanent wariness. "Hello, Emma," David said quietly. "We need to talk. All of you. There's something you need to know about your parents' death. Something I've been running from for 8 years. They gathered in the living room, the girls sensing the gravity and staying unusually quiet. David sat forward, hands clasped, gathering courage to speak. "I was there," he said finally, "the night your parents died. Not in the car before. At the meeting where Victoria and Harold planned it. I was young, stupid, in debt from gambling. They offered to clear my debts if I just stayed quiet." Emma's world tilted. "You knew all this time, you knew." "I tried to warn them," David said desperately. "I called your father, but he didn't believe me, thought I was drunk making up stories. And then it was too late. After they died, Victoria made it clear that if I ever surfaced, you'd be next. So I ran." "Why come back now?" Jack asked, his arm protective around Emma. "Because I've been tracking something," David said, pulling out a tablet. "Victoria's network, it's not dead. Someone's been rebuilding it quietly, carefully. And Emma, they're coming for the girls." Lily and Rose exchanged frightened glances. Emma felt ice in her veins. "What do you mean?" "The twins turn 16 next year," David explained. "According to your parents' original will, the real one, not the forgery Victoria created, they left provisions for any grandchildren. A trust that would activate on the 16th birthday, giving them significant shares in Sterling Industries." "That's impossible," Emma said. "My parents died before the girls were even born." "They amended the will 6 months before they died," David said. "They knew you'd have children someday, wanted to ensure the family legacy. The shares would come from the emergency holdings, the ones everyone thought were liquidated after their death. But they weren't. They've been sitting in a Swiss account, growing, waiting." Marcus leaned forward. "How much are we talking about?" "Enough to shift the balance of power at Sterling Industries," David said. "Whoever controls the girls would effectively control the company." "Over my dead body," Jack said flatly. "That's what I'm afraid of," David replied. "The person rebuilding Victoria's network, they're not interested in threats or ransoms. They're playing a longer game. Legal adoption, if you're gone, guardianship manipulation, even—" He paused, looking at the girls. even marriage arrangements once they're of age. Marriage, Lily burst out. We're 15. In some states with parental consent, it's legal at 16, David said grimly. And if something happened to your parents, if the right guardian was appointed, who? Emma demanded. Who's behind this? David pulled up a photograph on his tablet. Emma gasped. The man in the picture was elegant, distinguished, familiar. Alexander Whitmore, Victoria's brother, recently returned from a decade in Switzerland. He's been planning this for years, David said. Building legitimate businesses, making connections, staying completely clean, while his sister took the fall. He's untouchable legally, but he wants what Victoria wanted, complete control of Sterling Industries and revenge for his sister. Then we stop him, Jack said simply. It's not that simple, Marcus interjected. Alexander's been careful. No crimes, no threats, nothing actionable. He's positioned himself as a respectable businessman, even a philanthropist. He's on the hospital board, the school board. The school board? Rose's voice was small. Our school. David nodded grimly. He's been watching you for 2 years, knows your schedules, your friends, your habits. He's been playing the long game, waiting for the right moment. Emma stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Her reflection showed a woman who'd aged gracefully, worry lines earned through battles won and lost. But beneath the surface, she felt 22 again, overwhelmed by the weight of the Sterling legacy. Mom! Lily's voice broke through her thoughts. What are we going to do? Emma turned back to her family, her real family, not the corporate dynasty that seemed determined to destroy them. We're going to end this, once and for all. How? Jack asked. The same way we always do, Emma said, steel in her voice. Together. The next weeks were a careful dance of normalcy and preparation. The girls continued school, but now with invisible protection. Marcus's best people looking like parents, janitors, substitute teachers. Emma worked her corporate contacts investigating Alexander's businesses, looking for any weakness. Jack fortified the ranch, installing security systems that would make Fort Knox jealous. But Alexander was patient, careful. His first move came through lawyers, not violence. Mrs. Morrison, the man in the expensive suit said, standing on their porch with documents, I represent the Whitmore Foundation. We've been reviewing historical documents and discovered an interesting irregularity in the Sterling family trust. Emma took the papers, scanning quickly. Her blood ran cold. This is suggesting my parents' will was invalid. The witnesses have recently come forward to recant their signatures, the lawyer said smoothly. They claim they were coerced. Without a valid will, the estate should have been distributed according to state law, which would have included Victoria Whitmore as your mother's closest friend and designated guardian. Victoria is in prison for murdering them, Jack said flatly. Convicted on evidence that's now being questioned, the lawyer replied. Mr. Alexander Whitmore as her heir would have standing to claim his rightful portion, unless, of course, you'd prefer to settle this quietly. Get off my property, Jack said quietly. Now. The lawyer left, but they all knew this was just the beginning. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She found herself in the barn office going through years of documents looking for something, anything, to prove Alexander's involvement in the original conspiracy. Can't sleep either. David's voice came from the doorway. He'd been staying in the guest room helping with the investigation. There has to be something, Emma said, frustrated. Some connection we missed. David sat across from her, pulling out a flash drive. There might be. I saved everything from those days, emails, recordings, documents. I was too scared to use them before, but he plugged it into her computer. This is a recording from 2 weeks before your parents died. The audio was scratchy but clear enough. Victoria's voice, then another younger, colder. Alexander, you have to be patient. Once they're gone, everything falls into place. I've been patient for years, Victoria. First watching you pine for that woman, now watching her daughter grow the empire. When is it my turn? Soon. After the accident, there will be chaos. Emma's too young to handle it all. She'll need guidance, support. You'll be there, the helpful family friend. In a few years, maybe a marriage. I'm not marrying a child, Victoria. Not Emma. She's too suspicious, too much like her mother, but she'll have children eventually. The Sterling line continues through them. We play the long game, brother. 20 years if necessary. The recording ended. Emma stared at the screen pieces clicking into place. "He's been planning this since before I was even married," she whispered, "since before the girls were born." "There's more," David said quietly, pulling up financial records. "Alexander's been buying judges, prosecutors, child services officials. Not obviously, but through charitable donations, job placements for relatives, scholarship funds. He's built a network of people who owe him favors. Including at the girls' school," Emma realized. The principal who was so insistent they join the advanced program, the counselor who kept scheduling meetings. "All connected to Alexander," David confirmed. Emma's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Emergency, Alexander just filed for emergency custody of the girls claiming parental unfitness. Hearing tomorrow morning." "What?" Emma gasped, showing David the message. "He's moving faster than expected," David said. "Something must have triggered him." Emma's phone rang. It was Sarah Chen. "Emma, we have a problem. Someone leaked the Swiss account information to the IRS. They're claiming tax evasion, freezing assets. And Emma, they have a warrant for your arrest." The walls were closing in. Emma felt the familiar sensation of the world tilting, but this time she didn't have the luxury of panic. "Sarah, how long do I have?" "They'll be there by morning. Emma, you need to run." "No," Emma said firmly. "Running is what Alexander expects, what he wants. If I run, I look guilty. The girls lose their mother, Jack loses his wife, and Alexander wins." She hung up and turned to David. "I need everything you have, every recording, every document, everything." "Emma, you can't fight this in court. He owns too many judges." "Not all of them," Emma said, thinking quickly. "Judge Catherine Reeves, the one who helped us with Victoria. She's now on the federal appeals court. If we can get to her—" "She can't interfere with state custody proceedings," David pointed out. "No, but she can investigate federal corruption. And if Alexander's network crosses state lines, uses federal systems—" Emma was already typing, sending encrypted messages to contacts she'd cultivated over the years. Dawn came too soon. Emma had barely finished preparing when the police cars arrived. Jack stood beside her on the porch, the girls behind them, as Sheriff Coleman, a man they'd known for years, approached with obvious reluctance. "Emma, I'm sorry about this. I have a warrant for your arrest on charges of tax evasion and fraud." "I understand, Sheriff," Emma said calmly. "But before you take me, my daughters have something they'd like to say." Lily and Rose stepped forward, and Emma saw Coleman's surprise. They were holding tablets recording. "Sheriff Coleman," Lily said clearly, "we want to state for the record that we feel safe with our parents, that any attempt to remove us from their custody is against our wishes. We're also aware," Rose added, "that Alexander Whitmore has been stalking us for 2 years. We have documentation photos he's taken of us, records of him following us, evidence of him bribing school officials to get information about us." Coleman looked uncomfortable. "Girls, We're streaming this live," Lily interrupted, "to about 50,000 followers. Would you like to explain to them why you're arresting our mother on false charges orchestrated by a man who's been stalking minor children?" Emma had never been prouder. Her daughters had inherited not just her strategic mind, but her courage. Coleman's radio crackled. "Sheriff, we have a situation. Federal marshals are at the courthouse. They're serving warrants on Judge Henderson, saying something about corruption charges." Emma smiled slightly. Sarah Chen had come through. "Sheriff," Emma said quietly, "you might want to verify those warrants before you do something that ends your career. Check who signed them. Check when they were issued. Check if the federal tax charges even exist." Coleman hesitated, then made a call. His face paled as he listened. "The warrants were signed by Judge Henderson, the same Henderson who's being arrested right now." "Alexander made a mistake," Emma said. "He moved too fast, used people who were already under federal investigation. Every official he's bribed, every judge he's bought, they're all being arrested as we speak." "But the custody hearing," Coleman started. "Won't happen," Jack said firmly. "Our daughters are staying right here." Alexander arrived an hour later, his composure cracking when he saw the federal agents surrounding the property. He stepped out of his Mercedes, still trying to project authority. "This is a state matter," he declared. "You have no jurisdiction." "Actually, we do," Sarah Chen said, approaching with handcuffs. Conspiracy across state lines, bribery of federal officials, and, oh yes, conspiracy to commit murder. You can't prove that, Alexander said, but his voice wavered. Your sister kept such detailed records, Sarah said conversationally, including recordings of your conversations. Did you know she was recording you all those years? She didn't trust anyone, not even you. Emma stepped forward. You waited 20 years for revenge, planned for 2 decades to destroy my family. But you made the same mistake Victoria did. You underestimated us. You think you've won, Alexander snarled as they cuffed him. The Sterling curse will follow you forever. Your daughters will never be safe. Someone will always want what you have. Maybe, Emma agreed, but we'll face them together, as a family, something you and Victoria never understood. Real power isn't about control or money. It's about the people who stand with you. As they led Alexander away, the girls ran to their parents, the 4 of them holding each other tightly. The neighbors had gathered the Hendersons, the Parkers, the whole community that had become their extended family. Is it really over? Rose asked quietly. Emma looked at her daughters, 15 years old, brave and brilliant, carrying the Sterling legacy but not crushed by it. She thought of all the battles fought, the prices paid, the victories won. This chapter is, she said honestly, but you're Sterling women, whether you use the name or not. That comes with challenges. There will always be people who want what we have, who resent what we've built. But we're also Morrison women, Lily said firmly, and Morrisons don't run from fights. Jack laughed, pulling them all closer. God help anyone who comes for this family. Later, after statements were given and media was handled, after the girls were asleep and the house was quiet, Emma found herself once again on the porch, with Jack looking at the stars. David's staying, Jack said quietly. Says he wants to help rebuild, make amends. He's family, Emma said simply. Complicated, flawed, but family. Speaking of family, Jack said, pulling out an envelope. This came while you were dealing with the lawyers. Emma opened it, finding documents from Switzerland, the hidden trust her parents had created, finally accessible. But there was more, a letter in her mother's handwriting, somehow preserved all these years. My dearest Emma, she read aloud, voice trembling. If you're reading this, then your father and I are gone, and you've discovered our final gift. Not the money, though, that will help, but the knowledge that we saw this coming. We knew our enemies knew the dangers, but we also knew our daughter. Strong, brilliant, capable of things we could only dream of. The money in this trust isn't for you, it's for your children and their children. The Sterling legacy isn't about wealth, it's about resilience, about getting up every time you're knocked down, about protecting those you love with everything you have. Be happy, my darling girl. That's all we ever wanted for you. Emma was crying by the time she finished Jack's arms around her. She knew, Emma whispered. Somehow she knew. Mothers always know, Jack said softly. Sarah knew our girls would need another mother. Your mother knew you'd need this reminder. That's what love does. It sees beyond the present. They sat in silence for a while, processing everything. Then Emma asked, Do we tell the girls about the trust? When they're ready, Jack said. For now, let them just be teenagers. Let them worry about homework and horses and whatever boys they're pretending not to like. Emma laughed. Lily has a crush on the Henderson boy. Over my dead body. He's a nice kid, Jack. He's a boy interested in my daughter. That automatically makes him suspicious. They bickered gently, the normal rhythms of their life reasserting themselves. Inside, their daughters slept peacefully. David was in the guest room, finally facing his demons. Marcus was coordinating security, ensuring no other threats emerged. Sarah was building federal cases that would reshape the justice system. And on the Morrison Ranch, 500 acres of Montana paradise, a family that had been forged in crisis and tempered by trials settled into something approaching peace. Any regrets? Jack asked their traditional question. Emma thought about it longer this time. She thought about the young woman who'd crashed on that highway so many years ago, terrified and alone. She thought about the billionaire heiress who'd trusted the wrong people, who'd built walls instead of bridges. She thought about all the versions of herself she'd been, all the prices paid for the life she now lived. No, she said finally. Every scar, every battle, every loss it all led here. To this porch, this life, these people, I wouldn't change a thing. Even marrying a stubborn rancher. Especially that, Emma said, kissing him. The next morning brought chaos, as mornings always did. The girls argued over bathroom time. Jack burned the eggs. Emma juggled phone calls from board members and reporters. David attempted to help and mostly got in the way. It was loud, messy, imperfect, and absolutely perfect. "Mom," Rose called. "Lily's wearing my shirt." "Dad?" Lily yelled. "The horses are out again." "Emma?" David said urgently. "The lawyers are calling about the trust." "Jack," Mrs. Henderson called from the door. "That new horse is causing trouble." Emma and Jack looked at each other across the chaos and laughed. This was their life, not the quiet ending of a fairy tale, but the loud, complicated middle of a real story. There would be more challenges, more threats, more battles to fight. The Sterling legacy would always carry weight, and there would always be those who wanted to claim it. But there would also be this family breakfast and escaped horses, teenage daughters, and community support love that had been tested by fire and emerged stronger. There would be Jack's steady presence, the girls' brilliant futures, the ranch that had become a fortress and sanctuary combined. Emma Morrison, once Sterling, stood in her kitchen, surrounded by chaos and love, and knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. The heiress who'd lost everything had gained the world, not the corporate world she'd been born to, but the real world of family and home and belonging. And that was worth more than all the Sterling millions combined. The story would continue. Stories like this always did. The girls would grow up, make their own choices, face their own challenges. The Sterling legacy would evolve hopefully into something healthier, something that built rather than destroyed. David would find his redemption or not, but he'd have the chance to try. And Emma and Jack would face it all together, partners in every sense. But for now, in this moment, with her husband catching horses and her daughters arguing and her cousin frantically trying to help Emma Morrison, was simply completely, utterly happy. And that, more than any corporate victory or defeated enemy, was the real triumph. The woman who'd been raised to value power above all else had learned the truth that love was the only power that mattered, and she had it in abundance. The sun rose fully over the mountains, painting the ranch in gold, and the Morrison family faced another day together, united and unbreakable, proof that sometimes the best revenge against those who try to break you is to build something beautiful from the pieces.